Hello, welcome to my astrology channel. My name is Martine and I do videos mainly from the Vedic astrology perspective, but I also use my knowledge from tropical astrology, and I mainly focus on synastry as well as personal astrology. And if you're new to my channel and if you like this video, please give a thumbs up, subscribe, then hit the notifications bell so that you can see when I upload a new video. And if you're interested in a personal consultation, please email me at the email address that I will write in the video description. Thank you. Today I thought I would do a video on an aspect that I have been threatening to talk about for a pretty long time, namely Venus conjunct Ascendant in synastry. Now, without further ado, I'm just going to start with the description and why I think this aspect is important, and what does it mean from a psychological point of view, and why is it that it oftentimes shows up in long-term relationships, as far as I've noticed. So, since, I'm going to take into account the fact that some people are new, I'm going to start with the general description, which I have also mentioned in all of the Venus through signs videos that I made. But I'm going to start with the general description of what Venus means, and especially what Venus means in a male's chart. So Venus is one of the dispositors, or one of the, let's say, significators of the spouse in a person's chart, and this is true for both men and women. However, for men, it is especially important because for a man, Venus really represents the wife archetype, which for a woman would be shown by Jupiter and Mars to a lesser extent. I will touch upon the differences between Jupiter and Mars in a woman's chart in another video. So, Venus in a man's chart really represents the wife archetype. And it also represents the feminine ideal. It represents everything that a man wants to find in a potential spouse, both spiritually and physically, really. And it's kind of easy to see why, if a man's Venus is conjunct a woman's ascendant, it will breed a really strong attraction that is both emotional and physical. Because the ascendant shows a person's personality, and also, if you have been watching astrology in my videos or any other videos, or have been reading up on astrology, you will know that astrologers believe that the ascendant influences physical appearance. This is also why in all of my Venus through signs videos, I also give examples of famous people with ascendant in that particular sign, because I think it's important for a person with every person to see the kind of person that they will find attractive, because their Venus sign shows the kind of archetype, the kind of physical appearance that they will find appealing in a potential romantic partner, and not just, just in general, with regards to their aesthetic. So yeah, in case you are going to look at those videos, you're going to see that I give a lot of examples of famous people with ascendant in that particular sign, not just the general description of Venus through a sign. So yeah, so the ascendant shows physical appearance, right? And Venus shows aesthetic ideal. And so it's easy to see why it produces such a strong attraction. However, the danger is that, the ascendant is actually, I wouldn't say that it's just the outer shell, although some astrologers use that description. They say, the ascendant is just the outer shell, and it's just a projection it is not the real person, and that it doesn't actually have anything to do with, quote, the real you, which I don't really think is entirely true, because the ascendant is the physical body. It is true that it shows the personality, so it is the part of you that people first notice. It's your, which has to do with your personality, but it also has to do with, again, like I said, with your actual physical appearance. Like, different ascendants will literally show a different height, a different tendency to have lighter skin color or darker skin color. Like, if you probably have noticed, if you've watched some of the My Venus Through Signs videos. Sorry. And yeah, so I was gonna say, yeah, so that's the ascendant, but I don't think it's fair to say that it's just the outer shell. However, the ascendant really is, it is kind of like, the way that I see it, it's kind of like the user interface. So like, if let's say the soul of a person is the rest of the planets, the soul of a person is kind of like, would be the equivalent of being the computer, let's say, and the personality or the ascendant is like the user interface. It's the interface between the soul and the outside world that the soul has to function through. And so because of that, it is not the deepest, most profound, intimate, spiritual side of you. That is true, unless there are planets conjunct the ascendant, in which case the more planets are conjunct the ascendant, or even aspecting the ascendant to a lesser extent, the more you will identify with your ascendant energy. However, if you just have like especially if you have the ascendant in a sign and in a particular element, like let's say you have ascendant in Aries, and the rest of your chart, like all the other 7 planets that are looked at in Vedic astrology, none of them are in any fire sign, the problem is that you are really maybe not going to identify with that Aries energy that you project. Like, and it could be that on the outside you have this Aries kind of personality, and you function on a day-to-day basis through an Aries filter. However, oftentimes it will cause you to feel like the way that people see you and the way that you are forced to interact with the rest of the world on a day-to-day basis does not really represent the true you. And in these kinds of situations, when you have Venus conjunct ascendant, you could have a kind of scenario where the ascendant person is frustrated because the Venus person seems to idealize them. So, and usually with Venus conjunct ascendant, it produces a very strong attraction when it's the man's Venus and the woman's ascendant. Because again, for a man, Venus is particularly important in terms of determining the kind of person that, the kind of woman that he will find attractive. Especially, because it has to do with like physical, sexual, romantic attraction. Like I said, like for a woman, the equivalent of Venus would be Jupiter or Mars, or both of them, in different ways. Obviously, if you are gay or if you are bisexual, then it probably applies just as much as it applies to a man who has Venus in a particular sign. So you would want to look at the Venus sign as well. Right, especially if you identify more with, let's say, your masculine side. So, yeah, that being said, I think it produces a very strong attraction, like I said, physical attraction. So this is really the kind of aspect that you would expect to see in a love at first sight scenario. Especially, again, like I said, and actually the few famous couples examples that I've found are all where, the man is the Venus placement. The man has the Venus placement and the woman has the ascendant. I have never actually seen this like with the roles reversed, so I would be curious to hear if maybe you know of any particular examples where, you know, a woman's Venus is conjunct a man's ascendant, because I would be curious if there are differences there. But my intuition would be that if it is reversed, it would still produce maybe a very strong emotional affinity, like a sense of affection between the two people, but it won't feel as natural and organic as it is when it's the man's Venus and the woman's ascendant. Like in this Venus conjunct ascendant, when the man is the Venus, it really is one of these traditional romantic aspects, kind of like the way that I described Moon Mars aspects when the man is the Mars, and or Venus Mars when the man is the Mars, the same thing. It's it's that kind of a it's his romantic archetype matches the way that the woman is, on the one hand, physically built and physically portraying herself, and on the other hand, it also shows like that her personality and her character and the way that she carries herself, everything about her mannerisms, her way of speech, literally everything to do with her physical body matches his ideal. Now, obviously, there will be variations to this depending on what aspects Venus makes in a chart and what aspects the woman's ascendant makes in her chart, because, like, let's say a man who has Venus conjunct Mars will, let's say, find women who are Aries, kind of Aryan in nature, attractive. Whereas, and so let's say a man could have Venus conjunct Mars in Pisces, and he might not find a woman with ascendant in Pisces super attractive if she has, let's say, ascendant conjunct Moon, because then it will be more like she portrays this very romantic, very feminine, emotional energy, and his ideal might be more of an independent, aggressive, assertive kind of woman. Although I would say those are pretty rare cases, because even if you have like multiple planets conjunct, this will still play out. It is that strong of an attraction. And it is very idealistic and it is very romantic. And the ascendant person, it's generally one of those aspects where the ascendant person starts to feel like they are a better person around the Venus individual. So they will feel compelled to be on their best behavior all the time. But the problem is kind of like I said, sometimes the ascendant person can feel that they are in some way inhibited around the Venus person, because they will feel like they have to maintain an image and they have to maintain the illusion and the romantic, this romantic idealized nature of the relationship in question, which is oftentimes what you get with this aspect. Usually you get this purely romantic energy, and it is such a strong energy that it's usually one of those things where even the people around can see that these two make a very romantic, in love couple. I've seen this actually in real life a few times, and it's kind of like one of those aspects that, everybody will just kind of see that these people are in love, even the funny thing is, like, even if they're not maybe in love or something, they will seem like they can make a cute couple, because they just bring out this very romantic, glamorous aura in their interactions. And usually, like, if it is the man's Venus, he is usually smitten with the woman. It's like one of those aspects that is most likely to produce the love at first sight scenario. Very, like, literally love at first sight, because again, like I said, The man will see the woman whose ascendant is conjunct his Venus to be kind of like the embodiment, his ideal siren, like his ideal romantic partner. Yeah. So obviously, of course, based on other interactions, based on other aspects from the chart, there will be different interpretations, but this is the basic interpretation. And now to get into the few celebrity couples that I've talked about. They're all, I think, very telling. And the first one that I found is Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward. Again, Paul Newman, which I keep mentioning this couple, like, because they really have, like, an amazing synastry and composite synastry. So synastry as in aspects between their separate charts, and also their composite chart is full of, like, really strong aspects that suggest compatibility. And then when I checked again, they also have the Venus conjunct ascendant, and in their case it is kind of like a cluster of conjunctions there. So Paul Newman had his Venus conjunct Mercury conjunct Jupiter in Sagittarius, all of them in his ascendant, and Joanne Woodward had Saturn conjunct her ascendant in Sagittarius. So not only do they have Venus conjunct ascendant, but he also has his Venus conjunct her Saturn, which adds to stability. And then she has her Saturn and her ascendant conjunct his Mercury and his Jupiter and his ascendant. So it's a very binding, stable kind of romance. And they also have, I think, if I remember correctly, the Sun Mars conjunction, because I mentioned them in the Sun Mars aspect videos as well. So I think they either have the conjunction or they have the trine or something, or they have the conjunction in the composite chart. I don't remember exactly, but I think they have the conjunction in synastry, like in between their charts. So yeah, so they have like a strong compatibility, but Venus conjunct ascendant definitely leads to explain why they had a very, very long-lasting relationship, because Paul Newman absolutely looked like he was smitten with her. So yeah, I mean, it is nothing more to be said. Like, just totally attraction. There's total attraction and romantic compatibility there. The other example that I came across was John Gilbert and Greta Garbo. Again, I think this is extremely telling, because now I don't know how much you may know about John Gilbert and Greta Garbo. I happen to be a bit of a fan. I have seen one or two of her movies, and I think she was great. But I have actually seen some documentary about her life that actually explain how, again, with her chemistry with Gilbert, it was very much a love at first sight scenario. Like, they met for a film, and it translated into not just being a great couple on screen for a long time, but also developing a romance in private as well. And actually, John Gilbert, if I remember correctly, was the only man that she almost married. Like, she was engaged to him, but eventually gave up on the idea. Some people say that because she was bisexual. Some people say that she was just terrified of commitment. Whatever the truth was that they were madly in love for a long time. And also, if I remember correctly, in the documentary, his own daughter said that, Greta Garbo was the great love of his life. So, and basically, he ended up marrying another woman just because Greta Garbo rejected him. So, yep. Kind of goes to show you that, John Gilbert obviously thought that Greta Garbo was his little siren. And, yeah, another example, Vivian Lee and Laurence Olivier. Again, another couple that I have talked about a lot of times because they also have a lot of chemistry, and they also have had a very highly publicized, very whirlwind kind of relationship. And again, his Venus was conjunct Vivien Leigh's ascendant, and very much similarly to the Greta Garbo and John Gilbert scenario, they had a love at first sight kind of encounter. And actually, it was, I think, if I remember correctly, it was actually Vivien Leigh who pursued him first, which is maybe not exactly traditional, but he was definitely reciprocating, and he was actually, it's really funny because maybe in their case, Vivien Leigh was the pursuer simply because their conjunction was in Aries. So, and again, I remember a long time ago, like I saw a documentary about their lives, and Laurence Olivier's son was saying something like, that Laurence Olivier was in love with Vivien Leigh's gumption and gutsiness, and that he found it extremely attractive how daring she was and all that stuff. So that really fits the astrological description for his Venus in Aries being conjunct her ascendant in Aries. So yeah, and again, long-term relationship, I don't need to tell you that. Or if you want to read more about them, you can certainly look for online information. But yeah, a very long-term relationship eventually did separate because they had a lot of problems together. I also mentioned them in the video I made about Saturn conjunct North Node. So yeah, but overall it still fits into the Venus conjunct ascendant whirlwind romantic relationship, and him being absolutely enamored with her. Enamored. So yeah, and that was another example. That I wrote here, obviously it's kind of difficult to find examples. Like, I actually just looked for like a few famous couples, and this is how I look for examples. It's a very primitive way. I just looked for like some famous couples that I thought maybe they have this aspect, because and I was lucky that I found a few, because it's pretty rare to find these kinds of particular aspects. But another example that I found that is actually not of a famous couple, because they were not a couple in a romantic sense, but they were a couple in a professional sense, and it's Nicole Kidman and Baz Luhrmann. Now, Baz Luhrmann was the director of Moulin Rouge, and Nicole Kidman played in that film. You probably have seen it. It was a musical. And it was obviously, to me, it seemed like, Moulin Rouge was definitely a film that was carried by Nicole Kidman's beauty and talent, and her being, a siren. I mean, she plays a courtesan in that film, so she is definitely being a little Venus there, because she's singing and dancing and basically just being a love goddess the whole movie. And I found it really, really interesting that Baz Luhrmann's Venus is conjunct Nicole Kidman's South Node and her ascendant, because she has a South Node ascendant conjunction in Libra. And now, obviously, as far as I know, there was nothing romantic between them, but I think this is really telling, because he chose her to be, his leading lady for, this very ambitious project. So I think it's really telling that, he would choose a woman whose ascendant is conjunct his Venus, because he probably looked at her and was like, okay, this is it. This is my Venus. This is the woman that I want to play my leading role in my latest, most ambitious project. I haven't checked all of his leading ladies, but I particularly think that this is telling, because his Moulin Rouge is definitely, I think, a movie that is absolutely carried by Nicole Kidman. So it's carried by the leading female character, because if the leading female character couldn't have sung and danced the way that she did, the movie wouldn't have been as, over the top and magnificent and all that stuff. So I think it's really telling that, his Venus is conjunct her ascendant and her south node too. So maybe they were past life lovers. Right. Because I also made the video on Venus conjunct south node about how it shows past life romantic connections. So yeah. But yeah, overall, these are the examples that I have come across, and this is my general interpretation, and I hope you have found it useful and informative. And once again, thank you for listening, and if you are interested in a personal consultation, please email me at the email address that I will write in the video description, and please like and subscribe and hit the notifications bell if you want to see when I post a new video. And also, any kind of feedback, I would be very grateful. Like, if you found this description to be accurate, if you have any corrections, if you have any examples that you might know of in your own personal life, please comment below the video. And that is it. So, thank you.